This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Yeah, might want to download that Exxon Mobile Rewards Plus app, yeah.
Are you the Exxon Tiger?
I am. Yeah, new users can earn $10 in points, $5 after your first purchase and $5 after your second. That's a lot. That's a whole lot.
It is.
Well, hey, you get on that download, buddy.
I will.
Loading. Download the Exxon Mobile Rewards Plus app and join today. Exxon. Trust the Tiger.
For details, visit ExxonOffer.com.
The biggest moments in sports are streaming live on Fox One. From MLB to NFL, Big Noon Saturdays, and so much more. Fox One brings you the games, rivalries, and can't-miss moments all season long. And it doesn't stop at the final whistle. Catch highlights, expert analysis, interviews, and the stories behind the biggest moments in sports. Watch live or on demand, at home or on the go. Stream Fox Sports on Fox One. Download the app today.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with me, Stephen Wallace. In this episode, I'm taking you back to August 1976, another heatwave cricketing summer, when England were taking a battering against the West Indies. 2-0 down after 4 tests, and with the series already lost, England recalled opener Dennis Amiss. Dennis joins me to recall what he describes as a special moment in his career, when he scored a double century against a fearsome West Indies pace attack featuring Michael Holding, Andy Roberts and Wayne Daniel. Hello, Dennis. Welcome back to the Paddock and the Pavilion.
Thank you, Stephen. Nice to be with you.
Well, I'm going to take you back 50 years today when Clive Lloyd's West Indians were in town, so to speak. And 1976 seems like 2026, weather-wise.
Yeah, it's the grounds were as scorched as they are this summer, and the ball was travelling quite quickly across the outfields for us batters, so that was nice. But the wickets were really good with such sunshine on them, and pretty good batting wickets.
Well, that's good to hear. I just want to, before we talk about the fifth test in particular at the Oval in 1976, to pick up your story. At the time, you'd played 41 tests for England, made your debut in 1966 against the West Indies, but you just had a tough time against the Australians down under and in 1975 back home. Yeah.
Australia was with Lillee and Thomson. I can remember I started the tour well, but I spoke to Arthur Milton before we went out, and he said, Dennis, I think he was there in 53, Arthur, and he said, Dennis, you've got to stay leg side of the ball. There's big bounce in Australia. Just stay leg side and until you get in, sort of thing. But I made the mistake of getting 200s in the first two state matches, one against Victoria and one against South Australia, Adelaide and Melbourne, and I scored them. And Froggy Thomson was one of the bowlers, and he played Test cricket during that Packer series for Australia, and it was quite quick. And he was one of the bowlers, one of the matches. So the attacks were pretty good, but the wickets were really good. Two really good batting wickets, and I thought, well, I've got runs playing that my normal way. Do I need to change? And I made the mistake of going in that first test at Brisbane against Lillee and Thomson, and the first ball off a length hit me on the thumb in front of my face. This was a different innings, a different wicket, different bowlers, and we realised what we were up against. But the only two people in that series that scored runs and got hundreds were Greg and Knott, and they were fantastic innings when you consider that the bounce of the ball off these two guys, and Tomo was so strong. Dennis, great action, so quick and never gave up. Always at you. It was just a different game, and they scored hundreds by staying leg side of the ball, which and I it was probably a bit. I got into the series and still trying to do what I've always done, and it didn't work, unfortunately. And I can remember we were playing at Sydney, and I think Keith Fletcher got hit on the head, short of a length off Tomo, nasty. And I'd got out, and I happened to go and see Sir Leonard Hutton sitting there, and I went and sat by him, and I said, Sir Leonard, how would you have played these bowlers? And he said, and Dennis, he said, very difficult. You can't get the other end, can you? I said, oh no, that's true, Sir Leonard. I said, but what was the Bodyline series? I know you didn't play in it, but you must have seen it. He said, yes. He said, but that's Bodyline. This is Headline. They're aiming at your heads. He was right. I don't think he was a selector at that time, but he was a selector during my time as a player. And you just wanted to talk to those greats and see how they would have played it. I'm sure Bradman would have found a way. I mean, the Bodyline series, he backed away, didn't he, leg side and play? And he's on the offside, apparently. So the only two were fantastic. And Greggy baited Dennis Lillee and wound him up to such a crescendo. But that famous one where he hits one, he made a mistake. He bowled a decent length ball at Greggy, Dennis did, and Greggy's hit it on the up through extra cover for 4, and he said, "Fetch that. That's 4 runs." That's the way he treated them. But of course, he played in Australia. He got to know them a bit and everything. But and I mean, I saw Tomo not so long ago. We did a gig together in London, and I said, "That series, my gosh, it was you would have been the other end with the bat." I said, "It was facing your own bowling. It was frightening." And he said, "No," he said, "Dennis," he said. And then I said, that short ball you bowl first one, it scarred me for the rest of the series. He said, yes. He said, Dennis, he said, but you did well. You got out the way. He said, every time I bowled to everybody else, I hit him on the head. And of course, he did hit Fletch on the head at Sydney. But it was. And we've been asked to go back there for the. We went back 50 years ago, didn't we, for the 100th Test match? And we've been asked to go back for the 150th. So that's next March. Yeah, 2027. So we're going to have a look at that.
Anyway, you played the 2 tests against the Australians in England in 1975 before you were dropped. 1976 heatwave summer would take you forward to the West Indies tour, and you played in the MCC match, or for the MCC, against the West Indies at Lord's, a strong England or strong MCC side. You opened with Mike Brearley in that match, and you got struck by a certain Michael Holding. Yeah,
I ducked into it. It's my fault, and I ducked into it, and it hit me on the back of the head. I've still got the dent in the skull now, and every time I tell that story, I sort of it hasn't affected me. But my wife says, if you tell that story again, I'm leaving you.
Oh, we're going to hear it again now. She better not listen to this.
But anyway, it was about an inch away from where they hit Hughes, and there's a main artery there. So I was really lucky, but it did cause the head to bleed. So I think Phil Carrick was night watchman, all padded up, ready to go in, and he came in and he had to paddle around him in a bit of blood, I think. But he told me later. But yeah, so I realised that having come back from Australia with my Test career on the brink and starting against the West Indies like this, I had to change, and so I changed my technique, which we can talk about when you're ready. And I spent the rest of the summer on good wickets and practicing against a wicketkeeper, Chris Maynard, who went to Lancashire later on, who bowled little medium pace seamers, and Lloyd, who was pretending to be an off spinner. And those were the two people I practiced the new starts, which was back and across, like Ian Chappell and Ken Barrington to a certain extent. And that because they were good wickets in that summer, I was lucky. I went and scored some runs, and the technique worked. And I took it into that Test match. In the last Test match, when Greggy rang me and said, "Oh, I played against Snowy at Hove," and Greggy said, "Let Dennis have it." So he roared in at me, and I survived him with this new technique. And he rang Greggy rang Jill and she said, "His what frame of mind is he?" And she said, "No, he's good." So he picked me for that last Test match. Yeah.
Let's just go back to that MCC match. Fortunately, as a 15-year-old, did a massive scrapbook on that whole West Indies tour. And just to say what some of the newspapers were saying after you retired hurt. Hitman Holding KO's Amiss. Amiss is poleaxed. Had you faced Michael Holding before that match?
No. Oh, we did. Yeah, in West Indies. Yes, but he was he wasn't the fast, quick bowler that he was more of a medium pacer. But we did play him in one of the games against a Barbados game or something like that. I don't know whether he played for Barbados. He probably didn't. But one of the maybe it was the Prime Minister's 11 we played of Barbados, and we met him for the first time. Yes, but he wasn't the bowler then that he was later to become. But we had met him, yeah. And we
MCC heavily lost in that game. We bowled out for 83 in the second innings. Holding got 7 wickets in the match. Here's a question for you. I bet you can't guess who was the top scorer for the MCC in the first innings.
I can't remember who played it.
I thought this would test your memory. It was Richard Gilliott was top scorer with 66.
Well, I never got that because I couldn't remember the side. He got 66, but he did well then because Michael was just, sheer pace. He didn't have to bowl short, did he? He just 90 miles an hour plus. One of the fastest you could ever not wish to pace, but one of the fastest you ever faced. But he didn't need to bowl short. He didn't.
Could you hear him coming? Because they always whisper in deaf. Could you not hear him coming? That's what Dickie Bird said. You could see him coming, of course.
Yeah. Well, if you're a non-striker, I watched his foot at the Oval, and if he was sort of 90 miles an hour with his foot behind the crease, and then when he started to put his foot out, break the line, he was 90 plus, and that was the time that you had to wash out.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies, 18+.
Now that summer, England recalled Brian Close to start with for the first 3 tests. Brian aged 45. Mike Brearley made his debut at Trent Bridge, where Viv got a double ton. Can you remember much about the matches prior to your selection in the 5th test? Do you recall that you were obviously probably playing that day when for Warwickshire? Can you recall the evening when Brian and John Edridge took the battering from the West Indies pace attack?
I watched it, yes. I watched it on TV, and it was like lively wicket. I mean, comparing the wickets, the Oval to come was flat, but this had a bit in it, and they really went for us. And Closey just took it on his chest and everything. We saw him after that, and after that match, I think he played in the Warwickshire match at Edgbaston. And Bob Willis hit him first ball, and of course he hit him on the bruises that he sustained in a few days previous in the Test match, and he did go down. He obviously was obviously very sore from a few days before at Old Trafford, and it really did hurt him. And then when he showed us all the bruises all over his body, I mean, I couldn't believe it. it was just nasty, nasty bowling.
Yeah, for listeners, if you get a chance to go on YouTube, and as we both know, people didn't have helmets on, and very little other protection as well, not just helmets, no arm guards and chest protectors, was there?
No, not at all. He took the blows on the shoulder, on the chest, but yeah, he took so many. He stood up to it. And it wasn't until he got to us and he took one off Bob Willis, which was nearly first ball of the match, I think, in the Yorkshire match at Edgbaston, and he'd obviously hit a place he'd been hit before, and then he showed us all those bruises all over his body. That it's just,
and he was 45 at the time as well.
Yeah. Very, very brave man, and my gosh, it was really nasty. But the wicket was different, and but when we went in at the Oval, we were thinking, my God, I hope they don't go for us like they went for Edrich and Closey. But it was a different wicket, fortunately.
This new technique of yours, what was the trigger to change your style? Was it the team you were playing against, or? Yeah,
it was a combination of Australia, coming on the back of Australia and not having scored runs there. I had to do something, and I'd been hit once or twice, and you either had to pack in, or you had to have something different to play the fast bowling. And I'd seen Kenny Barrington using his technique, jumping back and across, and Ian Chappell. So I thought I should try it. But of course, it's okay on good flat wickets, which it was. It was a great summer like this summer, and there were batting wickets that were just brilliant to play on. And I practiced against two chaps, one Chris Maynard and the other Andy Lloyd. Andy Lloyd didn't bowling first class cricket much. He bowled off spinners, and Chris Maynard bowled little gentle medium pacers, and he was a wicket keeper. So that was the people I practiced on first of all, and I took it into a match and scored runs. Got 100. I think it was against maybe Lancashire at Edgbaston early on in the season. I thought, my gosh, I'm going to carry on with this. So I carried on with it, and because the wickets were really, really good, it worked with the ball not seaming around so much. If the ball's seaming around a lot with that technique going right back and across, if they pitch it up and it's doing a bit, you are quite vulnerable. But that didn't happen. It was just beautiful, beautiful batting wickets.
You had a very successful season, over 2,000 runs. Were you expecting the recall? England were 2-0 down when the Test side was selected for the 5th Test. Yeah, no, I wasn't. I wasn't, and it was a surprise when I heard that Greggy rung up Jill, my wife, to see if I wanted to come back. But I did. He did ask Snowy to give me a going over at Hove, and I think it was in a one-day. I think it was a one-day match. I don't think it was a county match. But even so, he roared in and gave me a really good going over, and I'd survived it with this new technique, and that gave me a lot of confidence to have played against Snowy, because he was very special and didn't often for Sussex come in and roar in like he did that afternoon. But Greggy asked him to, and he did get it together, and it was his Australian form, where in the early 70s he'd really messed them about, and we came away, I think, winning the Ashes, didn't we, under Raymond Illingworth. And he was in that form, and I'd survived it, and I got an 80, I think, and helped us to win it was maybe the semi-final of the Gillette Cup, something like that, which got us into the final. So that was really good, and so he obviously thought that I'd got it back, and I'd played Snowy that well that I could take on the West Indies bowlers. So, but I got very lucky, in as much as I've said many times, it was a beautiful batting wicket at the Oval. Well, the England team for that Test featured 5 players who'd got less than 8 Tests. It was David Steele, who actually was playing his last Test, Peter Willey, Chris Balderstone, and Jeff Miller was making his debut as well in that Test match.
Yeah.
First day, the remarkable statistic is that, as well as the West Indies getting 373 for 3, Viv scoring 200 not out,
Yeah.
was that England bowled 102 overs in the first day. How times change.
Yeah. Um, I don't know how that happened. We must have bowled a bit of bowled a bit of spin or something.
Well, yeah, the remarkable thing about that game, when the West Indies finished up getting 687 for 8 declared, the only two people that didn't bowl were a certain Dennis Amiss and Alan Knott. Everyone else bowled.
Good job. They would have got 700.
Well, they nearly did. They got 687, but it was a flat wicket, and Viv was in supreme form.
Oh, didn't he ever play? Well, he murders it, doesn't he? He gets on top of you and really murders it. Such a great player. And that form is unstoppable. It was one of those innings. In a way, you could only admire. I wasn't a bowler, but I don't think you'd admire it as a bowler. You'd be really frustrated that you couldn't get him out or get one past him. But he's a destroyer, and that was a typical innings of his destroying bowlers.
That must have been hard in the field that day, although probably not much chasing with that outfield.
Yeah, not much chasing at all. It was across the outfield. Yeah, speeding across the outfield. Yeah, like
you had 182 overs in the sun. Derek Underwood bowled 60 overs.
Did he? He's probably our best bowler on that wicket, I think.
Now, overnight on day 2, which was the Friday, England, that's Dennis Amiss and Bob Woolmer, you were 34 not out. And the next day was the day you went to 176 not out on the Saturday.
Yeah. The technique worked, and they tried to hit my leg stump, and that was nice because I liked it there, and they kept trying for a long time to hit that leg stump, and I can remember backward fine leg, but up for the catch. It was a walking in position, not standing still, not a leg slip position. I can remember it was Gordon Greenidge, and he kept ducking. He kept ducking as they whizzed past him. So there were extra sets that they were bowling, and they were going off the bat the same way. It was amazing. But certainly, I think I was not out overnight, and I came back in the morning, and they decided they were going to keep to their line on lengths and bowl off stump, and just as quick. And I nicked one, I think, the next morning, fairly early on.
Well, you were bowled eventually. You were bowled around your legs.
Oh, but that's right. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Second innings, I nicked one.
But did you, when you were batting on the Saturday, it must have given you great satisfaction having had your struggles against the Australians to stand up to this West Indian attack.
Yeah, it was very special, Stephen, that you could come back and do it. Even to me, it was a surprise, even though I'd used it against Snow, and that gave me a lot of confidence when he gave me a going over. And I'd used it most of the season, and I got confidence. My confidence kept going. You start with it after the season had started, and I decided to do it and practice against an off spinner and a medium pacer who don't normally bowl in the nets for hours on end. And you think, is it going to work? But just managed to find that the wickets were just batting wickets that summer, and it did work. And my confidence built up and built up and built up. I was confident enough to take it into that Test match, which gave me a lot of satisfaction after everybody had been saying, well, Amiss can't play fast bowling and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the newspapers, one of them says, Amiss the Conqueror, no holding him as he tames pace terrors.
I don't know about that. It's just a short day of taming.
Well, you were bowled, Michael Holding, for 203. You faced 320 balls, batted 443 minutes with 28 fours.
Gee, yeah, you don't know how you did it, but it was very, very satisfying against that attack, which had Andy Roberts as well as Michael, and Andy was a great bowler, and Wayne Daniel could be as quick as anybody. And I think Van Burn Holder, and they changed, hadn't they? They decided that in Test match cricket, because they had the bowlers to do it, they play four quicks, and that changed the composition of Test sides to a certain extent. But the West Indies had more than anybody else, I think, and they could call on four all the time. And I mean, Ambrose came later, didn't he? Joel Garner. They were difficult with their steep bounce.
What were the different challenges facing Wayne Daniel and Andy Roberts? So you must have faced quite a bit before Andy Roberts.
Yeah, no, Andy was really, really quick, and I can remember him going past the outside of the bat early on when I was doing this new stance, and I could have easily have nicked one and got very close to doing it on one or two occasions when he ran in, but he was as quick as anybody, and very, very slippery. So one of the greats, West Indies fast bowlers. So here, Michael, and a backup of Wayne Daniel. Van Burn wasn't in the pace. I mean, Wayne Daniel could be in that pace, certainly, as Michael Holding and Andy Roberts. But Van Burn wasn't quite in that pace, but he was quick enough and a very, very good bowler.
Michael Holding took 14 wickets in the match, 8 wickets in the first innings.
Yeah, and on that wicket, that's a hell of a performance by one of the all-time great fast bowlers. But yeah, a lot of them can bowl short and bowl short quicker than probably they can bowl pitching it up. But Michael could pitch it up at the same speed as bowling short deliveries. He was, sort of, I don't know, 93, 94 miles an hour, but he could bowl it right up there. And we had an incident during that. Greg had said he's going to make the West Indies grovel, hadn't he, at the beginning of the season, which was a silly thing to say when they had all these fast bowlers. And I think that moment at Old Trafford when they let Brian Close have it, I think that was, a little bit of, we'll teach them, for saying that. And Greggy, and of course, when in that innings, Steely and I were batting away.
You added 100 with David Steele.
Yeah, and it was nice. We were sort of. I always say that the script was Steely, and I didn't need to say it to him because he just worked away ones and twos. And I said, we don't upset the fast bowlers here. It's a nice afternoon. There's one bouncer and over, and let's get ones and twos and don't upset them. And he played that way, didn't he? Anyway, so I didn't really need to say it to him, but we did. And then Steely was giving out LBW, and I think it was Benali that gave him out, and I sympathised with David. I think he was a bit unlucky. Anyway, he was giving out LBW, I think to Michael, was he? And then Greggy came in, and he comes in shouting and screaming. He's rolling his arms and saying, "We're going to get after him. We're going to shake this up." And I said, "No. It's nice out here. It's nice and quiet. Don't upset the bar." And of course, back came Andy Roberts and Michael Holding at both ends, and 3 bouncers and over, and all hell broke out. And I've never been so pleased when Michael bowled that exocet at Greggy's leg stump. And he's knocked it out of the ground. It's gone cartwheeling back to Derek Murray, standing many a mile back. And I've never been so pleased in all my life to see the back of an England captain. because after that, I said to Jeff Miller, "Jeff, just let's pick ones and twos." And he went back to one bouncer and over and having a nice afternoon again and picking off ones and twos. But Greg, he could really rile people as he did Dennis Lillee in Australia. But that worked for him, but it didn't work for him on this occasion.
Well, Tony Greig was bowled by Michael Holding in both innings in that match. They did bowl faster when he came in. Yeah,
they did. And Michael had that. He could bowl 94 miles an hour block hole balls, it's very difficult to pitch it right up and bowl it as quick. I would imagine fast bowlers might tell you different, but it seems to me that the shorter deliveries are much quicker than the full length balls. But Michael was one of those who could bowl full length balls at 90 plus miles an hour, there are a few of them around. I think Andy Roberts was in that category. Most of the West Indies did that pretty well.
You were certainly right about the LBW of David Steele, because I read some of the newspaper reports back in 1976, and they remarked that the LBW decision, obviously any DRS and things like that, was a dodgy one that got David Steele out LBW for 44.
Well, he played a bit like with that front leg a bit. Viv had the same style as Steely, and they pushed that left leg forward and across at the point of delivery, or just after delivery. But anyway, so it can make you vulnerable to LBW. Anyway, he was unlucky.
Remarkably, David Steele, who had that success the previous summer against the Australians, and had also done reasonably well in this series. He got a century in the first test. He got 44 in the first innings at the Oval and 42 in the second innings when England were bowled out for 203. That was the last test match David Steele played.
Yeah, he's a bit unlucky. I think we were going out to India for the winter, and they were concerned. There was rumours going around that they were worried against the spinners, which we were going to face 4 great spinners that winter, that he wouldn't have the success against the spin bowling as he would against the quick bowling, where the ball coming onto the bat quicker helped him with his type of game. I think he was really unlucky. I think he should have gone. He deserved to go for what he'd done, but they had these concerns about him, and they didn't select him, which was a great shame. And therefore, because they didn't, other people came in and got on, and he never got another look in.
England then lost the series 3-0, losing the final test by 233 runs. My research also revealed that during the series, these were the opening pairs. First test at Trent Bridge, Edridge and Brearley. Second test, Lords, Wood and Brearley. Third test, Old Trafford, Edridge and Close. Fourth test, Headingley, Walmer and Steele. Fifth test, Oval, Walmer and Amiss. So we had 5 different opening partners in the series.
Gee, I couldn't remember that.
Does show what happened, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just shows you. Well, they were such great bowlers, weren't they? That they finished off batsmen and opening pairs. My gosh.
But to end, and we're recording here on the 13th of August, and that test match started on the 12th. So as we're recording, 50 years ago today, you were beginning your innings against Holding, Roberts and Daniel. An innings you will always remember. Yeah.
It was very special, in as much that, to me, it was very special because I'd changed my technique, and it had worked, and it had worked against fast bowlers, and everybody had written me off. So it was nice that I could still show them that I could still play fast bowlers, and especially the barrage of the West Indies. So yeah, I was really lucky. You play a miss, and you could have easily have nicked one early on, but I think the gods were with me, and it was amazing, really, that to do it, and very lucky.
203. Can you remember any of the reaction from the West Indian players?
I think they were all trying to work out where to bowl. And I think there was a bit of advice being passed around, bowl his leg stump, knock his leg stump out the ground. And I like that. But they tried to. Viv had to bowl in the end, and he didn't want to bowl because it wasn't turning, and he bowled his off spinners and quick off spinners and bounced me once or twice. He got. I think he wasn't very happy that they couldn't get me out, and they weren't bowling where he thought they should be. So it was nice to play him as an off spinner coming on after that barrage.
But to end it, it sounds like from what we've been saying, whilst it was never easy out there, it was always better batting, apart from when you're batting with the England captain, Tony Greig.
Yes, that's for sure. But Greg, he was such a competitor, and I mean, we'd had that incident in West Indies, hadn't we, in the 70s when he ran Kelly out, and he was a great competitor and liked to have a go at the opposition. But I mean, to tell him to grovel with all this, it was at the beginning of a series with 5 Test matches to come, was not the best thing to say. And they showed us, didn't they, during that summer, that even on good batting wickets, that they could be a handful.
Well, thank you for going back 50 years, Dennis.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking me back. Yes, lovely memories. You don't forget them. You can't remember everything, but you don't forget those things. It was a special moment. Yeah, especially for me.
Thanks for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion, the only podcast which covers horse racing and cricket, with me, Stephen Wallace. With over 400 episodes, you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. Thanks once again for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion.